In regards to bereavement, there's a few things. Number one, that when you're going to go to bereavement to somebody's house, the first thing is don't have food. Yes? Recommended that don't expect food. Okay, I know sometimes when people expect food, do not expect food. It is against etiquette. Okay, right? Because remember, you are not going as a guest, you're going as bereaving. You're a sympathizer. That's number one. Number two is consoling the family members. Consoling the family members, and there's rewards in that. Consoling the person. Like, like there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, Man farraja an muslimin kurbatan farraja Allah anhu biha kurbatan min kurbi yawm al-qiyamah. That whosoever was to remove and alleviate a burden from a person, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya, then Allah will remove one burden from his on the day of judgment. Yes? So basically sympathizing with them, giving them consolation. That's number two. Number three, try not to be there more than what's necessary. Sometimes what people do, for the 3 days that they do, right? Because the Sharia only allows 3 days. 3 days after the person's death, by the way. 3 days after the person's death, not when the person's buried. That's another thing as well that I'll mention it now. That in some masjid, what they do, they start the bereavement after the person's buried. It's actually, I've written a detailed fatwa on this as well on our website. When does the 3 days bereavement start? It starts when the person passes away. So once the person passes away, that's when the bereavement starts. The 3 days. So during that 3 days, make your visit very short. Console them. Try to avoid as much as possible to have food during that time. And if somebody wants to make a collective dua, a short dua, they can even make dua as well if they want. There's a custom now what people do when they go to people's house. Every time a new person comes, Fatiha, Fatiha, Fatiha. They do that, don't they? As soon as it comes in, Fatiha. You just did Fatiha, someone will do another Fatiha. So persons are doing Rafal Yadayn. They do Rafal Yadayn now. So this is a new thing now, Rafal Yadayn. Now the thing is, you see, look like that. This is what I tend to do. You can take this example or not. So whenever I go to the Taziyat, where they call it Puri, right? They call it Puri. For example, they put a chadar there or something like that. As soon as I go there, right, when people make a collective dua, I join in the collective dua with the intention of making dua for the deceased. That's what we should do that anyway. After that, then I don't put my hands up again. I just keep my hands fastened and I just engage reading Quran, Surah Yasin. Every time it says Surah Fatiha, Surah Fatiha, Surah Fatiha, this is not the Sunnah, right? Reading make conditioning for everybody to read Surah Fatiha. Every time somebody comes to do Surah Fatiha, that's not something that's necessary. I don't then usually take part in that. I only make the dua once, and I try to make the dua long, whether collectively or individually, depending on who's making the dua for the deceased person, and that's it. So there's no harm in doing collective dua, but this constant practice of Fatiha all the time, this is unnecessary. And the final thing is that try to avoid talking about worldly things. Honest to God, can I tell you, I've sometimes been to the masjids and people start talking about politics for Pakistan. They start talking about politics for Pakistan. Yes? I'll just give you an example anyway, but back home politics, right? And I'm thinking, subhanAllah, you're in the masjid, and I will never forget, I went to this masjid, and there were, mashallah, our old members, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase their life, and they were literally debating about politics. Not realizing they're in the masjid, and people are just looking at them, and they kind of like stole people's attentions. So worldly matters, try not to discuss them, try to avoid them as much as possible.